it was really about survival. A few of us decided to take a risk as entrepreneurs. I was with a Wall Street firm, and like many Wall Street firms, you go through mergers, and I was out of an opportunity. There have been many great organizations, Christian organizations, that have been deplatformed or debanked, and it has really given some confidence to these large money managers to uh, create social policy that is in conflict with what most Christians believe.
Trust me, I get it. You're feeling the pressure to keep your faith separate from your work, worried that pursuing your God given dreams might be seen as selfish or misguided. For far too long, we've been held back by a world that tells us that faith and ambition don't mix, that our divinely inspired visions are just wishful thinking. But here's what I've discovered: our faith isn't a liability in our leadership. As a matter of fact, it's the source of our strength and wisdom. When we fully integrate our leadership with our Christian values, then and only then do we tap into that unshakable divine power. The real challenge is navigating how to boldly pursue our purpose while staying anchored in our faith. And that's exactly what the Beacon Show is all about. Each week, we bring you biblical wisdom and practical strategies from true beacons, Christian leaders who are illuminating the world. And it's also that you can let your light shine brighter and brighter. I'm Tamara Jackson, and this is The Beacon Show. Welcome to The Beacon Show, where we believe in the power of faith-driven innovation to transform lives and communities. I'm your host, Tamara Jackson, and today I am honored to be joined by Rich Todd, CEO of Innovest, and we are going to continue our discussion around financial stewardship. Rich, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to spend time with our viewing and listening audience today.
Thank you, Tamara. My pleasure.
Well, Rich, you of course are now an expert in the financial realm, and you will have a lot of great wisdom to share with our viewing and listening audience. But I wonder if we could just take just a moment to kind of start at the beginning for you, Rich. What was it like growing up, and financially, what were some of the lessons that were instilled for you?
Gosh, it's been a journey. In the beginning, it was really about survival. A few of us decided to take a risk as entrepreneurs. I was with a Wall Street firm, and like many Wall Street firms, you go through mergers, and I was out of an opportunity. And so they suggested that I go back into production, which in their mind was create my own book. And I went to one of my partners today, or my founding partner, Wendy Dominguez, and I said, you know what? Instead of doing it here, let's do it on our own. So 28 years ago, we started Innovest, and we've grown a lot over those years, but it's come with lots of mistakes, and we've hopefully learned from those. And I think today we understand what makes our firm successful, and it comes with a lot of thanks to the Lord, and thanks to a lot of great people here that are better than me.
Amen. Well, I'm curious, Rich, before we talk a little bit about the work that you do, in that moment where you were faced with that decision to accept that job and build your own book, or venture out on your own, what are some of the things that helped you through that decision-making process? I can only imagine there are some that are viewing and listening to us today that may be in that pivotal type of decision themselves.
Well, one was we didn't like the model on Wall Street, and so if we were going to start our own firm, we were going to not be a commission-oriented enterprise, but we became fee only. In other words, we would charge for the work that we would do. We were fiduciaries. Our mission is stewardship. We're stewards to our legal stewards to our clients, but we're also stewards to our employees here and their families, and we're stewards to the kingdom. We're We're just here as caretakers.
Hmm. So it sounds like the opportunity to really live out your values was important to you, and you really didn't quite see the model that you were looking for on Wall Street. Now, I have the benefit of having a certified financial planner on my side, so I understand the difference between the two models of the commission model and the fee-based model. But many in our viewing and listening audience may not understand the difference. So I wonder if we could spend a little time there just speaking to perhaps some of the advantages. Because I'll be transparent, as I was making the decision on what I was going to do, I did have some people that said, well, why in the world would you want to pay a fee when you can, work with this particular company and the fees are taken care of by the backer of that financial institution. So I wonder, there may be others that are watching us today and they don't understand the difference. So can you speak to that just a little bit, Rich?
When a product has a commission, it creates a conflict of interest. So if I'm doing planning or working for a client and I knew that my compensation could be more with one type of product over another, it would influence my, I mean, just naturally, it would influence my recommendation. So by working for a fee, you can be completely objective. You can be on the same side of the table as a client. So at Innovest, about a third of our clients are families, two-thirds are institutions. And in the institutional world, where the assets are bigger, it is very, very unusual that an institution would work with somebody that is commission oriented. And I would say institutions are probably more sophisticated, not always, but it's a standard that they use a co-fiduciary to manage assets, and that's what we are. And you can't be a co-fiduciary if you're selling a product for a commission.
Let's talk a little bit about that word, fiduciary. That was a word that I had to learn last year to really understand that difference. But I think it's really important for our viewing and listening audience to understand that that's a good thing. So when you say fiduciary, what do you mean?
It just means that our interest is your interest. If you are accepting a commission, for instance, you are really serving two masters.
Hmm.
And by being a fiduciary, we're on the client's, the investor side of the table.
So, for the benefit of our viewing and listening audience, I want you to understand that this is a great opportunity to learn some of these terms. You may have seen them and not understood them, but I want you to really pay close attention to this episode because it's an opportunity for you to learn some of these things, whether you feel like you have enough money, so to say, to be managed in this capacity or not. We are believing that as you follow God, that He is going to provide the increase. So if it's not today, one day down the road, you will have the resources. And it's important for you to have the right team on your side. So, Rich, one of the things that I admire about the work that you do at Innovest is that you look at this investment puzzle with a faith lens. And that's not always the case when we talk about investments. I'd love to hear your perspective. Why is it important for us as believers to even think about how we invest our money as being a vehicle for kingdom impact?
I hope you are enjoying this episode of The Beacon Show. It is our mission here at BEACONSHIP to empower you, the Christian visionary, to achieve the impact that you desire to create in the world. So we want to come alongside you and provide the training, the mentorship, and the funding readiness that you need to grow and scale your impact. I'd invite you to join our mailing list where you can receive additional insights beyond this episode to build on what you've learned here today and take you to the next level. So go ahead, subscribe today, and we'll continue to keep you motivated and inspired to move forward in all God has called you to.
Yeah, there are many things that are really not aligned with our faith that are happening right underneath our noses as investors. And some of those have to do with the investments that maybe an investment product is investing in. Many of our clients actually are faith-based institutions, and they carve out in their policy, they carve out areas that are objectionable. So, for instance, they may not want to be involved with companies in the pornography business or abortion, or maybe companies that are involved in some ways with child labor or slave labor. You don't see that so much here in the U.S., but you do see it internationally. So from there, after the policy is created, you can really go out and build a portfolio using products, managers, and strategies that will allow you to get returns that are just as good as you do in the secular world, but you can carve out a lot of those areas that are antithetical to our faith, to the church. And then there's this other element that it's called proxy voting. So it's something that a lot of investors have taken for granted, but there are many resolutions that are put forth, especially today, to corporations that are anti-Christian. So it could be that that there are resolutions put forth that in an employer matching program, they disallow matching to a religious organization or your church. And that can be something on a proxy. And if you're not really engaged with the way proxies are voted, you're never going to understand that, or your manager may be voting for it on your behalf in a very different way than you think is right. So that's complicated. That is more common in the institutional world, but we pay a lot of attention to proxy voting with all the high net worth families that we work with, because it's happening, especially today. 10 years ago, it wasn't so much of a worry as it is today.
So let's talk about that, Rich. What do you think has made it such a big problem as we, head into, by the time this episode airs, it will be 2025. Over the last 10 years, what are some of the things that have happened or things that have changed that have caused that?
Well, some of it is, kind of this anti-Christian behavior, this cancel culture. There have been many great organizations, Christian organizations, that have been deplatformed or debanked, and it has really given some confidence to these large money managers to create social policy that is in conflict with what most Christians believe. Today, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street control most of the public companies out there, and while they've backed off some, they have been in favor of many resolutions that are very negative for Christians, that are really anti-Christian. And in some cases, they've really encouraged, let's say, a bank to not provide banking services to a faith organization because of potential risk. And it's happened, and it's created hardship on these institutions. So it's just allowed others to become more brazen and more confident, and really telling the Christian that you need to keep your faith in your home and in your church, and keep it out of the public square, keep it out of the company. And that's something that we fight, something that we're pretty loud about.
So it sounds like, Rich, there's certainly an advocacy component to what the team at Innovest does to stick up for Christian values and the right to live out our values in terms of how we invest and how we bank, which is amazing. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a great team here. We have we have 60 employees. We have a Christian culture at Innovest, and it's really our secret sauce. So we have all of our clients, we have secular clients, we have we have cities and counties. We have charities, organizations that might be secular, universities, and they hire us because we do a great job. We manage 50 billion, and we have a great reputation. But our secret sauce is our culture, the way our people live their lives. We really encourage people to live integrated lives here at Innovest. That we say we link Sundays and Mondays.
I love
That,
it.
that if you walk through our office, you'll see Bibles and crosses and crucifixes, and we have a chaplain here, and it is great for our people. It encourages people to stay. We have low turnover, but it also has created a reputation where people want to come here to work, and so we're able to attract really good people. We work hard.
Yeah.
We believe in the dignity of work, but we also believe that, like I said earlier, that we're here to steward the assets of our Heavenly Father.
Well, it sounds like, Rich, it's not, it certainly is the assets of your Heavenly Father, but you're also looking at the environment, the business that you lead, the people that are a part of the team. There's a stewardship element to how you think about them as you've described the culture. And I think that's really important for us to underscore as well, because some would have us believe that you can't be successful in business and stay true to your values. And what I love about what you've shared is, yes, you're attracting people that share your values, but you're also attracting clients that value the work that you do. And it's not a deterrent to working with you. It's actually something that draws them to you. So that's a huge blessing for our viewing and listening audience to realize that it is possible to do both and to serve and be a witness, to be a light in a space that maybe you otherwise wouldn't have an opportunity to. So I so appreciate you highlighting that for us. I'd love to talk just a little bit about something that I read from one of your prior interviews. And I think it's really important because as I was reaching out to different leaders in the financial space, one of them said, well, the track record around ESG investments isn't a good one. And as a matter of fact, sometimes the returns aren't as good. But I think that it's really easy to equate these ESG initiatives with faith driven investing. And you've made a very good point that they are not one and the same. But for the benefit of our audience, I wonder if you could help draw a contrast or help us to understand the two so that our audience really understands what they're considering.
We are about to experience the greatest wealth transfer in history. $84 trillion will transition from baby boomers to Generation X and millennials. The question is, will we be prepared to steward this wealth and multiply it for kingdom impact? If you're not sure, you need to join us in the How to Receive Millions Masterclass. We'll ensure that you are equipped with the insights, the mentorship, and the training that you need to grow and scale your mission. This is your opportunity to make the impact that only you can make. Join us in the masterclass by clicking the link below this video to register today. We want to see you step into the calling that God has for you, and we will support you every step of the way. I'll see you in the masterclass.
Yeah, it's surprising that we're hired by investors that actually have ESG portfolios, because there are some elements of ESG that are really in conflict with our faith. So ESG, environment, social governance. And so typically most people think of ESG as having a green initiative. We are all wanting to take care of the resources that we have, God's resources, that our planet. I speak a lot about ESG. One of the elements of ESG that I think is surprising is that, and this goes back many years in the socially responsible world. It used to be that child labor was always something that you screened for. And back, let's say 15 years ago, not to pick on Nike, but Nike was always the whipping company that they had part of their shoes that were manufactured through children. And so the thought was, and I don't know if that's happening today, but the thought was, we don't want to own Nike as a company. We don't want to own Nike gear. Today, child labor is out of the ESG world. It's not screened. And I believe one of the reasons it's not screened is because a major component of a lithium battery is cobalt, and about 70% of cobalt is mined in the Congo. The Congo is controlled by the Chinese Communist Party, and the majority of cobalt mined is touched by either children or slaves. Mm-hmm. So in many ways, I think we're substituting human dignity for saving the planet. So I think we have to be careful about what that means. You know, we all want to save the planet, but we have to be careful there. But on the social side, I've talked about some of these resolutions. About 3,000 investment managers, asset managers have signed on to ESG, and they are for a lot of initiatives that are like what I talked about before, not working with religious institutions, keeping faith outside the business. A friend of mine is actually an executive at a Wall Street firm, and he had a crucifix on his wall, and he was giving a talk to the firm. Human Resources called him after the talk and told him, you need to take that crucifix off your wall. That's against policy. So there are policies like that are taking place under the ESG umbrella, and so you have to be careful that as an investor you just don't embrace it because it sounds good or feels good. I think there are some elements that have the evil one really licking his chops.
So, Rich, let's talk about what are some of the alternatives. So we've talked a lot about some of the dangers, I guess, that you have to think through as you're considering where to invest and how to invest. If you were to give a word of advice to someone who's maybe just getting into this world and starting to understand these pieces, what are some suggestions that you would give them in terms of how they think about their investments?
Well, I think some of it is the normal way to invest, best practices, focus on overall design, asset allocation, be diversified. You can do that in a very efficient and sound way, and have Christian managed products that are good products in a diversified portfolio. I also think that it's important that you work with an advisor that is aligned as well, and especially institutionally, tens of billions of dollars are managed by institutions, a lot of them Wall Street firms, that while they can build a Christian portfolio, they will go in and carve out some of the stocks or bonds that are antithetical to our faith, but they are supporting organizations that are misaligned. They have policies within their firms, like I had mentioned, that are completely misaligned. So one of the steps of our process is we want to make sure that the managers that we use products, managers, and strategies. We want to make sure that they're not misaligned. So we ask a series of questions to them about their own values. So surprisingly, there are firms out there with even maybe Christian in their name that are doing things from a company culture point of view that are surprising. And with our size, we're trying to influence them to really change some of those policies as well. So I would say, you can have a Christian portfolio, well diversified, have returns that are very solid relative to the secular world, and you can work with advisors that are completely aligned with your values as well.
That's a great piece of advice, Rich, because as I've talked to people, the concern that I've heard is, but if I do that, my investments are going to take a hit. And even the thought process could be, but I want my investments to grow so that I have more to put to work for the kingdom. So some people do feel a bit of conflict, like it's not possible to accomplish both. So that's why it's so important to have people like you on the show that can speak to this. It's hard to believe that we're almost out of time. I'd like to ask just one final question before I let you go. The work that you and the team have done, you have done at Innovest, is amazing. I wonder if legacy is a thought for you. Do you think about what you hope to leave behind when all is said and done, or how does legacy fit into your thought process?
Well, a couple things. One, our firm. Obviously, I'm no spring chicken. Maybe that's why you're asking me that question.
No, I ask everyone, Rich. I'm not a spring chicken either.
But our plan is to pass our firm onto the next generation. We have 20 partners here, and while I'm the founder and one of the partners, we have a process in place of moving the firm to very, very capable younger people. Personally, in working with families, we have really seen wealth corrupt families really for generations. So we've had many great examples of people, though, that have been able to instill great values within their family and pass these assets along so that they can be good stewards. For me, my children are they're successful, they're accomplished, and the majority of what we are left with my wife Joni and I when we pass will be going to charity.
Well, Rich, I just want to thank you on behalf of the entire Beacon Show community for being willing to spend your time with us today and for being willing to take some risks. I mean, clearly your decision to leave Wall Street and found Innovest, and even the stance that you have taken that Christian values deserve to be championed and defended. We owe a debt to you. So thank you for your leadership. And I know this episode is going to be just a blessing to so many in our community. So thank you once again.
Thank you, Tamara. It's been a lot of fun.
If you've enjoyed this episode of The Beacon Show, make sure that you hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on another episode.